Good evening. Excuse me. Good evening, everybody. If I can call the room to order so that we can start the meeting. Good evening to anybody who may be following us online. Welcome to our Cabinet meeting. I'm Ian Edwards. I am Leader of the Council and Chairman of Cabinet. Gentlemen, you are most welcome to be at the meeting. And being present, I will give you some health and safety advice. First of all, there is no fire alarm sounded. So if one does sound, it will be for real. We will be evacuating. The fire exits are very clearly marked, and don't worry about it because all of us will be leaving at the same time. We will escort you out, probably through those doors and into the most expedient way into the fresh air. Okay. What I would ask everybody to do is make sure their mobile telephones are turned off or to silent so that we have less disruption. We will move now into the agenda. Agenda item 1, please, Mark. Apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chairman. All members are present.
Thank you. Colleagues, are there any additional declarations of interest in matters before the meeting tonight? None indicated, Mark. Thank you. And would you please approve the minutes of the last meeting? And that is pages 1 to 16 in the pack. Are those minutes approved? Thank you. Item 4, this is to confirm that items of business marked Part 1 of the agenda will be considered in public and that there are separate matters, business matters, marked Part 2, which are considered in private. We will break between those two and we'll ask members of the public who are present with us to leave the meeting, and we will also break the video link. The public items are the matters of greatest import to residents. And we aspire to be completely transparent, or as transparent as circumstances allow us, with regards to Part 2. And you will see that we have a preview paper that gives more detail. Part 2, the privacy, relates predominantly to contractual matters, which are confidential in nature at this time. The issue and the decisions are published. There will be a break, as I said, between those two parts. We're now moving into the substantive part of the meeting. Agenda item 5, the annual report of adult and children safeguarding arrangements. Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Leader. This cuts across two portfolios, myself and Councillor O'Brien. So I will speak very briefly about the adults and then I will hand over to Councillor O'Brien. Essentially, I will be asking that the Cabinet notes the report and notes the way in which the partnership has responded, and that we note the strategic priorities for safeguarding for 23-24. This comprehensive report takes into account the Safeguarding Children's Partnership and the Safeguarding Adults Board. A large amount of work goes into safeguarding from London Borough, Hillingdon and all our safeguarding partners. Safeguarding is everyone's business, and some really good work has been carried out and being showcased in this extensive report. Some of which I will highlight has been a webinar learning which has improved practice support at Hillingdon Hospital. It's been very, very helpful for the way they interact with their patients. Another one of the highest referrals for safeguarding is self-neglect, and that will include things like hoarding, and it has all the knowledge and the increasing knowledge has improved practice development around the implementation of the Mental Capacity Act. We've encouraged people to look at the clutter imaging rating scale. It sounds boring, but I can assure you it isn't. It's absolutely vital. We've also had training delivered from our Safer Hillingdon Partnership to community health teams as well. They've received training in domestic abuse. The independent scrutineer, who looks at it from an independent point of view, obviously, found no area of poor practice, and strong leadership was identified, and that boards were open to challenge. On page 73, I'm very grateful for officers for putting in an easy read version So if we don't look at anything else, could we please look at page 73? That's really, really important. I would like to thank the policy overview committees that have looked at this report, the staff for their professional curiosity to keep residents safe. And once again, I commend this report. It's absolutely excellent. It's one of the best safeguarding reports I've seen since I've been in the council, and the officers' work on this is exemplary. Sadly, we only usually hear about safeguarding when something serious happens, but I'm encouraging everybody to look at this and read it, and I will now hand over to Councillor O'Brien. Sorry, Leader, that you should have done that.
That is quite all right. Councillor O'Brien. I'm normally poor at bringing in the second speaker, so it's been helpful to remind me. Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Leader, and also thank you, Councillor Palmer, who, yes, I would have to concur with everything that she said with regards to the main bulk of the report, and also she has alluded to that I will just be discussing and staying on the children's safeguarding report this year. So this was once again another year of collaborative work between the partnership organisations, ensuring the success of coordination and the impact of the joint arrangement, all with equal responsibility. So that's very positive. In September 2022, the Integrated Care Partnership handed over its chairmanship to the Metropolitan Police for the Children's Safeguarding Board. One of the strands was the voice of the person. In that, 36 children with lived experiences from a range of identities, including gender, religion, ethnicity and disabilities, were all consulted. Their views were sought regarding the range of support that had been provided by professionals with their families and their peers. And from that came the Children and Young People's Annual Report, which summarises the children's voice. This can be found on page 79. Not an easy read version, but a lovely easy read version because of the way that it's actually produced. It's not difficult to read through and actually enjoy it. The children that were involved felt empowered, listened to and validated as they saw their responses and comments regarding the positives and also what they felt could be improved or changed, all in part of this in this annual report. Children have asked practitioners, and indeed even an exercise for all of us, to walk in their shoes, to don't assume and to provide early help rather than creating mountains that could have originally have been a molehill. Every child and young person should feel safe, enjoy their physical, emotional and mental health. They want to feel that they belong and have the opportunities to thrive. Now I move on to the priorities for 23-24. There will sadly always be priorities and changing ways that others will try and exploit young children. So the Safeguarding Children's Partnership priorities for 23-24 is contextual safeguarding, child sexual abuse, once again, stronger families, and this year an addition of education safeguarding. As the report states, safeguarding does not take place in a vacuum. No one agency must sit in a silo. Therefore, I want to thank all of the officers and also the partnership organisations that have worked very hard on this report behind the scenes to change and improve the lives of children and young people of this borough. I support the recommendations that Councillor Palmer has suggested, which are on page 18 of the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillors. This is, of course, a good report, which one would expect from a high-performing authority, Hillingdon. Delighted that we, again, are listening keenly to our residents. Putting them first is our mantra, and it isn't just a strapline, it is an ethos that we live by. I'm also pleased that the report picks out strong leadership, because everything else follows from strong leadership, and that isn't only strong leadership at cabinet level, it is also, though, from our directors and senior officers and across the partnership, and that together it's delighted to see that being picked up. Colleagues, are the three recommendations, as on page 18, agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. Item 6, sheltered housing schemes, Useley Court and the Gordings. Councillor Lavery.
Thank you, Leader. The report begins on page 89. There are 6 recommendations to this report on page 90. The background to this is us reviewing the mix of housing stock, and we currently have an oversupply of sheltered housing within our overall portfolio. The purpose of this is to repurpose 2 of these blocks as short life accommodation to meet the needs for temporary housing and reduce the cost of the high cost of temporary placements that we currently incur. Useley Court is a small scheme of 25 units. It is an older scheme and is actually opposite a much larger and newer scheme, which is more preferred by residents. Colleagues will note that planning permission will be required to change the Useley development from its current use to short life, and that will be progressed providing the recommendations tonight are accepted. Residents have already been consulted, and indeed I have heard a petition already on the Useley scheme. The housing team will work sensitively with residents to arrange appropriate transfers to more acceptable accommodation. This may be sheltered, some wish to go into bungalows, etc., and indeed have preferences for where they may wish to go. The Gouldings is a slightly different matter. The Gouldings is, for those who know it, is above the Pavilion Shopping Centre here in Uxbridge, is a tower block. It is a mixed scheme currently between a sheltered scheme and a general needs housing development. It is not, in today's environment, ideal for sheltered housing for those who may well have more limited mobility, more difficulty to get out in the event of a problem. And it's certainly not somewhere, if we were building a scheme today, that we would be looking to have as sheltered housing. So this scheme will be converted to general needs accommodation. Residents in the scheme will have a choice. They can choose to remain where they are, but will become general needs tenants. In other words, it will no longer be sheltered housing, or they can be accommodated in more appropriate accommodation. The 6 recommendations are on page 90, asking you to note responses from the consultation, to make the changes to the schemes as I have described, and then delegating any further decisions in respect of implementation to the Corporate Director of Central Services in conjunction with myself. I move the recommendations.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lavery. At this moment in time, there's enormous pressure on the demand for housing and our ability to meet that demand with supply. There are no easy decisions to be made. What you are putting forward here appears to me very sensible and proportionate measures. I am pleased that we've taken strong steps in consultation. Colleagues, are the 6 recommendations agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. Item 7, consultation on school admissions arrangements. Whitehall Infant and Junior Schools. Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Leader. So this evening I propose agenda item 7, which changes the admissions criteria for Whitehall Infant School and Whitehall Junior School. The recommendations are set out on page 120, and there are 2 recommendations requesting that both the infant and the junior school reduced its published PAN from 120 pupils per year to 90 pupils per year, and to undertake a full consultation. There's a very small window for schools to request a reduction in PAN, and the month of October is generally the month where it comes to Cabinet for this discussion. Cabinet will know that Hillingdon has I should actually say as well that the recommendation 2 is that this will come back to report on the 15th of February 2024 following the consultation to make the approved decision. Cabinet will know that Hillingdon Council has a statutory responsibility to secure sufficient school places for children residing in Hillingdon. We have over the past few years seen a reduction both in early years and in the primary school settings, which is experiencing the reduction in pupil PAN. Schools are paid per pupil at a particular time of the year. Therefore, it's very important for Council to understand the situation whereby a reduction in numbers means a reduction in funding to the schools, which could then plan for insufficiencies whereby they are having difficulty with resources and staffing. So as we want to adequately make sure that the reductions come that line up with our school place planning, but also line up with the school's assumptions. So we take all of this very seriously every year. As I said, the recommendations 1 and 2 are on page 120, and I therefore move.
Thank you very much, Councillor O'Brien. This is not an exception for Hillingdon. This reduction in young people, the birth rate, number of young people going into primary school is common across the country, but it's exacerbated in London by the housing issue, where younger families are being priced out effectively of London and are moving further aside. So we are having to manage the situation of reducing pupil numbers. This again seems quite proportionate. I welcome the move for consultation, of course, and the report back in February. Colleagues, are these 2 recommendations agreed? Agreed. Thank you. Agenda item 8, the TfL Local Implementation Plan spending submission. Councillor Bianco.
Thank you, Leader. Well, this is, as the title implies, Transport for London Local Implementation Plan. On an annual basis, we are required by TfL, on behalf of the Mayor of London, to implement, to make a bid for this money, which is handed out by TfL to further the Mayor of London's guidance, the direction of travel he would like to see in his transport strategy. This is at this stage simply a bid that complies with those criteria, and in due course we will find out whether we've got it all, some of it or none of it. And at that point we will be better able to determine what this pot is spent on. However, if one looks to starting on page 130 and going over to 132, you will see the range of items that we are making a bid for, and they are items that we've pursued on a regular basis. So you can see cycle training, pedestrian and training, parking management schemes, of course, school travel and road safety measures in particular, and then a number of individual school things, and then bigger items that will interest many people, which is upgrading the towpath of the Grand Union Canal as it passes through part of our borough, works to North Hyde Road in respect of air quality, a wide range of different activities. The proposal is at the bottom of page 127, which is to submit this report and delegate authority to myself to agree any changes or additions prior to the submission deadline. And I so move.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bianco. And the only point I would make is the regret of the bureaucracy that we need to go through to secure funding that should be passported directly to boroughs in the first instance, cutting out the take that we receive, that we experience from an unnecessary tier of administration, in my view, in this domain.
Agreed.
Is this recommendation agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. Agenda item 9, the School Capital Programme update. Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Leader. So agenda item 9 this evening on page 135. This is a twice-yearly report which provides Cabinet and also the public with an update on the primary, secondary and special school expansions, as well as the school's conditions programme, works programme and other school capital works. So continuing investment in the school's conditions building programme for 23-24 is £21.766 million. This is between 23-24 to 27-28. And also the future SEND programme is estimated to cost in the region of £22 million. However, this will deliver 416 additional places and therefore reducing the overall dedicated schools grant deficit, which is truly hopeful for us to actually stop bringing that down. The report recommendations are on the bottom of page 135. I'll draw your attention to a couple of the projects. On page 138 we have Tables 1 and Tables 2. These are agreed projects that include special educational needs provision, so whereby uplifting of school places to enhance the offer that we have for our young people and children with special educational needs within the borough. Table 2 also runs the same. We have currently nearly the ending the projects for Charvel Academy, Ruislip Gardens Primary School, and also Wood End Park Academy with new SEND provision, whereby we are providing specialist resource provision spaces for young children, and Ruislip Gardens will be the first of a new pupil assessment base for early years children to be able to assess how their educational learning will progress. Table 3 on page 141 is the Schools Conditions Work Programme. Lots of work that is going on. A number have been completed this year where we had the opportunity to go and see some of the good work that has been carried out, and there are always and will always be a number of schools within the pre-construction stage and within the pipeline itself. As I said, the recommendation is on page 135. I therefore move.
Councillor Mills.
Just a small point, Leader. Page 138, Table 1. I'm sure there is an explanation, but of course the number of places doesn't actually equal the totals that are written in the box. And I'm sure that those, as it's an educational paper, we will check the mathematics for the record.
Happy to investigate that for you and come back.
Thank you very much, and attention to detail is most welcome. It had missed me by in my reading. This overall is a very good report. Again, it evidences the continued investment by this council in education provision in this borough to make sure that all of our young people have a school place appropriate to their needs. We're talking here in excess of 40 or approaching £45 million over the coming 5 years. Is this recommendation is this cabinet report noted?
It is noted.
Thank you. Item 10. This is the monthly council budget monitoring report. Councillor Goddard.
Thank you very much, Leader. Firstly, I must apologise to all concerned for the late delivery of this report. This is attributable to my request for clarification to officers on a number of points of detail which took longer than anticipated to resolve. This report deals with the Council's projected results for the financial year to the 31st of March 2024 as they stood at the 31st of August 2023, that is month 5 of the financial year. There are now some small items of positive national economic data, such as the further reduction in the Consumer Price Index to 6.7%, and indeed the fact that the Monetary Policy Committee at the Bank of England chose not to increase interest rates after a succession of 14 increases over the preceding 17 months. However, the reality for local authorities nationally continues to be one of tough challenges. Flat levels of central government funding, contrasting with legacy inflation and increasing demand for key statutory services, lies at the heart of these difficulties. Particular areas of pressure for us here in Hillingdon are in respect of homelessness, which is exacerbated by asylum seekers who arrive at Heathrow, and both adult and children's social care, where increased demand for residential care is being experienced. We can also expect to see renewed upwards pressure on our energy costs as a result of the new conflict in the Middle East. At the heart of our budget strategy is a determination to live within our budgets and not to deplete reserves in response to these pressures. We're therefore creating further budgetary margins for ourselves by examining once again discretionary expenditure and by carrying out a review of a number of areas of our balance sheet in addition to our existing savings programme. We will continue to be cautious and vigilant so far as our forecasting of results and I'm satisfied that Hillingdon's response to our financial challenges is realistic and robust. We will manage our costs by using budgetary controls, and we will continue to maintain our levels of debt at modest and sustainable levels. We will remain resilient in our response to financial pressures. Turning to the General Fund revenue account, this continues to indicate a small underspend, and this is now at £13,000 against budget. This reflects a small adverse movement of £10,000 from the previously reported month 3 position. As previously reported, we have absorbed an additional £2.6 million cost in respect of the anticipated staff pay settlement. Once planned uses of earmarked reserves for items such as continuing legacy COVID pressures, core inflation, and the older person's council tax discount are recognised, we project a 23-24 year-end position for earmarked reserves of £14.3 million. In addition to this, we also have unallocated general balances amounting to £26.8 million, so in total we're projecting £41.1 million of reserves at our disposal at the end of 23-24. As I've said in my earlier reports, it is our objective to retain and rebuild our reserves, notwithstanding the continuing challenging economic environment. We should expect a number of further transformation programmes, which are at their early stages of development, to yield a strengthening of reserves, and these are not reflected here yet. Our existing programme of savings for 23-24 will achieve our entire target of £22.8 million, albeit that there may prove to be delays in the delivery of items totalling £240,000. Turning to General Fund capital expenditure for the financial year, this is now indicating an underspend within the year of £13.7 million, with an anticipated expenditure expected to amount to £148.9 million. This is largely due to constraints of capacity in the construction sector, which has caused delays in projects such as the West Drayton and Useley Leisure Centre and the HOAC project. Excuse me. The dedicated schools grant position also remains unchanged from the reported position at month 3. Our housing revenue account continues to project a full-year outturn, which is identical to budget at this stage. Housing revenue account capital expenditure for the year is projected at £117.6 million, which indicates a positive cost variance of £529,000 from our budget. Leader, I therefore move recommendation 1 of the report, which is set out on page 2 of Pack B. Part B of the report, on page 23 of Pack B, also sets out 3 financially oriented recommendations, itemised A to C. These recommendations are self-explanatory, and I therefore also move these recommendations. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much, Councillor Goddard, for your report there. We are not immune to the economic pressures bearing down on local authorities, and one can hardly avoid news nowadays of another council facing the precipice as a consequence of restrictions in financing and increases in demand. What comes through clearly from your reports to council or to cabinet is the continued sound financial management for which this council has earned a strong reputation. It is obviously welcome that is continuing. These recommendations would place us in a strong position to be able to balance our expenditure with our revenue when we follow through the savings programme and the additional management action that you alluded to, and that is to be welcomed. We must learn to live within our means, even when those means are being restricted elsewhere. Colleagues, are the 2 recommendations on page 2 of agenda item B and the 3 on the back page 24 agreed? Agreed. Thank you. That brings us, item 11 is the public preview of matters to be considered in private. This is a report that we provide for public information that sets out in greater detail the agenda matters that will be considered. I hope it is of value to you. We are aspiring to be as transparent as we can in our decision making, but we are unable to disclose fully the reports that we consider in Part 2. Is that report noted?
Noted.
Thank you. If we could now move, please, to Part 2, ask members of the public to retire, and once the link is broken, we will consider Agenda Item 12. Gentlemen, thank you very much.